Hey guys, so before we get into chapter 10 content next week, we just wanted to spend a couple extra days reviewing some things, especially some things that we noticed on the benchmark tests that we sent out through Clever for the first 2 days of school. So here are some examples to get you started for your next couple days. So geometry review number 1, example says point X is between points Q and T. Find the missing segment lengths. So what we're going to do first is actually draw. It says it's a line segment. And X is somewhere between Q and T. So we're just going to draw it somewhere in between. It doesn't have to be the middle. It can be the middle when you're drawing it. It's up to you. Just make sure you have something to represent what you're doing. Okay, then we're going to label. So Q to X is 3x plus 5, X to T is 4x plus 4, and we know the whole thing is 30. So this is actually an example of the segment addition postulate from chapter 1. And what we do is we actually add both of those pieces together, and then we set it equal to the whole thing. So remember, part plus part equals the whole. And then we're going to go ahead and solve this. So I'm going to combine some like terms here. And then I'm going to subtract my 9. And I get that x equals 3. I am going to plug that back in because it says find the missing segment lengths. So I have 3 times 3, which is 9, plus 5, so I have 14 for that segment. And then for this next one, I have 4 times 3, which is 12. Plus 4, so I get 16 for that segment. And you can always double check that those two do add together to equal that 30. So that is your segment addition postulate. Okay, the next example is about your midpoint formula. So I went ahead and included that on this slide just so you have it as a reference. The endpoints are given here. This is my x1 and y1. And here x2 and y2. And we're going to find the coordinates of the midpoint. So all we're doing is adding our x's together, 1 plus 4, and dividing that by 2. And we're going to do the same thing with our y's, negative 3 plus 2, and dividing that by 2. So you get 1 plus 4 is 5, so we have 5 halves. And then negative 3 plus 2, so I have a negative 1 half. So our midpoint would be 5 halves and negative 1 half. Okay, next thing we're going to talk about is an angle bisector. Remember, that just cuts an angle into 2 equal pieces. So what I'm going to do first for this question is I'm going to draw my angle. So it says I have angle PQR. So I'm going to label that PQR. And it says QS bisects that angle. So I know these two pieces are congruent. It says PQS is 24. And what I want to find is the measure of PQR, the entire thing. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to say 24 plus 24 because I know these should be the same. So I'm going to get that the measure of angle PQR is 48. Okay, if you were solving for x, you just set those pieces equal to each other and you will find x that way. Okay, the next example is a little flashback to algebra, but we did do this in chapter 3. It says line K has an equation of y equals 2/5 x plus 3, and the line passes through this point. Okay, I want to find the equation of line A, which is parallel to line K. So remember, parallel means they have the same slope. So parallel means the same slope, so I'm going to use that 2/5 as my m. I'm going to use this as my x1 and y1, and I'm going to use my point slope formula. So y minus y1 equals m times x minus x1, and I'm going to plug everything in. So we said we're going to use 2/5 for our slope. Then we are going to plug in negative 5 right here for x1 and 0 for our y1. So nice over here when I plug in 0, that's all gone, so it's just y equals. Then I have 2/5 times x minus a negative 5. So this is going to become a big plus sign here. Okay, we're going to go ahead and distribute that. So I get y equals 2/5 x plus 2. So there is my equation of line A. Okay, next we're going to review some angle measurements. So it says the measures of 3 of the numbered angles are 80 degrees. Identify the angles and then find all other missing angles. So what we're going to do first is figure out which ones are also 80 degrees. So I have 80 degrees right here, okay, and I want to know which other numbers would also equal 80 degrees. So we know that right across from that is a vertical angle. So the measure of angle 3 is 80 degrees because of our vertical angles. Remember, across from each other, those are equal. Vertical angle theorem. We also know that the measure of angle 6 is 80 degrees. And those two are corresponding angles, so CAT are corresponding angles, so those are congruent. Okay, and we know that alternate interior angles are congruent. So I know that the measure of angle 7 is 80 degrees because of AIAT, or alternate interior angles. Okay, so I've got the 3. It says 3 of them were 80 degrees. I found them. Okay, here they were. And now I've got to figure out the other missing angles. So the last 4 that I'm missing are measure of angle 1, measure of angle 4, measure of angle 5, and the measure of angle 8. Okay, so what I'm going to do first is I'm going to look and find out what the measure of angle 1 is. Remember that when you have 2 angles next to each other that form a straight line, that's a linear pair. Linear pairs are supplementary, so this should add up to 180. So if the measure that I'm showing is 80 degrees, this one should be 100 degrees. So measure of angle 1 is 100 degrees, and that's your linear pair postulate. Okay, they're supplementary. The next one that I'm going to look at is angle 4. Okay, now even though it's facing a different way, it is still a linear pair. Okay, when you look at it this way, that should make a straight line. So this one is also 100 degrees. That's linear pair postulate. Okay, next one that I'm going to look at is right here, that angle 5. Measure of angle 5 and that original 80 degrees are actually consecutive interior angles. Remember that consecutive interior angles add up to 180. They're supplementary, so this should be 100 degrees. And the last one, these two don't actually have a relationship if I go back to that original number, but we can get there based on other things we found. So if I look at number 1, I said number 1 was 100 degrees, and I look at number 8, those are alternate exterior angles. So alternate exterior angles are congruent, so that one should also be 100 degrees. Okay, so just a little bit of review. You have some vertical angles corresponding, alternate interior, alternate exterior. You have some consecutive linear pairs. Remember, supplementary means add up to 180. So lots of things going on in that picture. Okay, and the last one for today is our exterior angle theorem. So that says that these two angles added together should equal this one on the outside. So exterior angle theorem says the sum of the two non-adjacent angles is equal to the exterior angle. So I'm going to set it up, x plus 70 equals 2x minus 5. Okay, so then what I'm going to do is just solve it like a normal algebra problem. Okay, I'm going to subtract x from both sides. I'm going to add 5 to both sides. So I get that 75, ooh, that looks funky. 75 is equal to x. And the only thing I have to do is make sure that I'm reading the question carefully, because this question actually tells me that what I really need to find is the angle JKM. Okay, so what I'm doing is I'm actually plugging it back in. So I have 2 times 75 minus 5. So the measure of angle JKM is 145 degrees. Thanks, guys, and I will have another short video to help you with tomorrow's lesson. Bye!